Hello and welcome back to my programs dev stream of RP-1, where we have just started on our road to satellites. I am going to need to only 16 days until that's ready. So we'll wait until that's ready. Oops, am I getting some chugging? Just the logs from doing the maintenance and stuff. Okay. 87 days till that's ready. Aluminum tanks. AL2 tanks. Hey, Warlord. Okay, well, guess I'll do that. And then lunar comms. And at some point I need to start building a launch complex for Thor-like things. Does avionics prototypes give me anything interesting? Probably not. No, nothing terribly useful. So do I even want to bother with the this engine that I have access to already, or do I want to wait? just fly it. I think I'll wait and fly it instead. What's in basic rocketry? Anything interesting? That's the upgrade we want. Nothing else of note. Okay, that part upgrade shouldn't exist anymore because it's the default config of this engine. Anyway, I guess what I'll do is just hire a bunch of researchers and wait. Yeah, we'll cap out. That's fine. And start that upgrading. We have a bunch of construction engineers. Not great. It's going to complete in less than a year? That's interesting. Yeah, only 86 days. Okay, sure. Okay, we'll put some people in the hangar for now, because that will slow our roll a little bit. Yeah, we're now positive again. So we get 1K a month. Okay, now we can finally fly the proper version of this plane. Okay, there we go. Apparently it doesn't take very long to trade out the engine. Now we can take another one of these. 600 to 650 meters per second, the last one. Okay, so we can get some more rep. Our subsidy has outstripped our current setup. And look at that, it's finally above all the other contracts. Isn't that nice? Did some more patching. Yeah, okay. Guess we have to wait another few days. One more day. Okay. Away we go. Sonic boom. And leveled off at 18 kilometers. Minute and a half left. Okay, so now we can go home, but I'm going to try to do a run at 6:55 so we can get our science. Because we are not thermally limited yet. Close enough. Now we can all the way back home. And there's the Cape. And down we come. Hilarious, we're picking up speed. Even with full flaps and full speed brakes. All right. One of my favorite, so I used to play a shuttle landing simulator called Precision Approach. And one of my favorite lines from it was, "Hey Tower, watch this one." I had some fairly hot approaches. That was a thing that happened. Apparently our landing gear are tough. I'll take it. Given that I got 2 notifications, I'm pretty sure that I did fine. 6.7 science, that's a nice amount of science. I like that. Yeah, we got the partial credit. Got the objective. All right. Still need more rep, though. Yes, that was a very spicy landing. Which is to say I was in stall, was what actually happened. Okay, so now we have to wait for that to be something we can do. Training. Start training. What's the cooldown on this? Oh, this is still... Yeah. Alright, I guess we have to wait a long time. Okay, so now we actually have to make that's sad what it's doing to my efficiency. What do I actually want next? Squirrel, yeah, I am generally conservative and therefore have too much energy when I'm coming in for a landing. I guess I'll just change the ordering on these because I don't really need the avionics early, because I'm not going to bother to tool avionics until I get the good avionics. So we'll get the solids first. All right, so let's load up this one. That's weird. But okay. Okay, so tooling cost is $12K for that, and then why is that so cheap to tool? That seems wrong. Okay, we're going to make the booster development version of this. which yeah, this is her first orbit, which I verified last night will do first orbit. It'll do about like 300 by 400, and then the one with high dyne will do a proper like 350 by 1,000 or 2,000. Why can't I right click on things? There. Oh, it's just a weird input locking. Choose tank type, and we have access to AL2 now. Good. Now, I think what I actually want to do is science, mass spectrometry. Oh, that was 5,000 funds that I'll never see again. But I guess that's correct for what I need to do. Now here's the interesting question. Can I place the engine here? Just, okay, so they're going to stick out ever so slightly. But we can actually solve this problem, hilariously enough, by having fins to cover those little bits. Yes, so that's sort of a bug in that we've known about it for a long time, and it's how Kerbalism works, so it's not really fixable. But the reason why I bought that was because I didn't want to, like, it probably would have been cheaper to tool a science core than it would have been to pay to unlock that, but whatever. Yeah, so that's peeking out slightly. Okay, I gotta fix the rotation there. And now we can put them on this way. Oh yeah, and I need to change this to this, which we can't afford. Especially because I just spent 5,000 funds. Because I was dumb. Which I guess technically I could fix by quitting unless it saved the game on purchase. Hold down bolts. Oh, you can't for once you cannot rotate them. Okay. The question is, do I want to do this? Or oops, where's the pole position? Ah.
Hey there.
Hello. How's it going?
It's going okay. How about yourself?
Pretty good. Got a bunch of fixes in before I started playing, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I saw all the GitHub notifications. You're gonna reply.
Yeah, but fairly busy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's good to crank through stuff for sure. The squirrel, you have to. I know it's tough, but you have to give up the ghost on everything having to be perfect speedrunny. Like, it's okay to occasionally have a slower campaign. What's the? How much does this tank cost the tool? Oh, that's cheap as heck. Yeah, I guess I want to just fly these things. Although, I need better avionics.
Since I am not caught up with what are you doing, what is that rocket?
So I basically built Juno 1, but I don't have all the tech for it, so I'm just flying the engine to get data on it. Because I've already tooled in this diameter, and I'm not going for orbit anyway, so I don't really care about the delta V. So I figure I'll just fly these to get data on the engine while I'm waiting for all the other nodes to unlock. And I'll get some science out of it too.
Do you finish up the research program?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, finished that last night or the night before, and then built, the night before, and then last night I built my orbital launch vehicle.
Cool.
Okay, this is a very tall rocket. Happily, it is not actually much taller than Vanguard, which is deeply hilarious. Almost 3 times as heavy as Vanguard, but all right.
It's not supposed to be a Vanguard-alike, I assume.
Right. No, I'm just remarking at how tall and thin it is. Yeah, no, this is the real one. Because I don't have access to the baby sergeants yet. But here's the real one. With the tub up top and avionics that look sort of Explorer-like, and lots and lots and lots of Delta V. What's the avionics tooling hit me? Almost 8K funds. I think not. Had I been smarter, I would have tooled that for the right amount at the start, but then I would have been hurting for Delta V for other stuff. So it's 20, so 25 tons. What would it take to get us down to 21 tons? All right, so something like almost 40 seconds of burn time would have to be unguided, so that's not going to happen. So I guess we just accept a shorter burn time on this thing. And the minimum mass is definitely biting me. What was that about for selected launch site? Let's see how this works without guidance for the first little bit. Which is probably an exploit that I should remove, even though I'm using it currently. Oh, yeah, I need to make that lower too. Yeah, okay, I guess we can't do this without guidance.
Yeah, or significantly more thrust off the pad.
Yes.
I take it you haven't gotten to any significant solids yet.
No. No, I have not. What was that about? That was weird.
Still don't have guidance yet.
No, I have guidance. It's full. It's full up pitch. It just there's not a lot you can do
Yep.
with jet vanes.
Yep.
And high dynamic pressure. But this is basically fine. Like, what I care about is getting data and getting my mass spectrometry into space.
Right. Okay. Well, that's all you can care about. You could also just double the size of your fins so that you get
Yep,
more
which
vertical.
is, yeah, what I'm going to do. Yeah, not clear that I even need the guidance at all.
Yeah, unlikely.
Okay. That's that's a fair amount of fin. This is acceptable. And it's pretty cheap to tool the tanks. 1,200 funds. And we have a reasonable amount of burn time too. So now we just need the money for it.
Congrats, Pawn Sister.
Hey, that's awesome, Pun Sister. Your job with NASA is super awesome. Hey, Taken. No, that's a booster development launch vehicle for orbit. Um, I'm getting data on the XLR-43. All right. So now, look at the budget. The budget is 10K a month, give or take. And I need about 48K in the bank. Yeah, I'm going to achieve first orbit super, super early. So I think it is worth considering uh, the funding of the early programs as part of that rework. Because definitely think there's too much money early on.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a little bit too much money and too much early rep.
Yeah,
And
the early rep for sure, which is like kind of equivalent to money, but not quite. Um, but yeah, it's the thing about the other thing that I want to talk with you about. So I'm so glad you came by. Um, was it feels super weird to take the early satellites program, of which the first launch is orbit, but you can't make that launch for a long time. I mean, unless you're already capable of orbit just from the.
is
Um,
this in the like I would just want to keep launching rockets vein of thought,
well,
or the
I mean, sort of, but it's more just like it is weird to accept a program and have nothing you can do.
hmm, I don't know. I mean, I guess I can understand gameplay wise why that might be weird. Although hopefully you've got other overlapping programs to do something with while you build up.
I mean,
But
it's a problem that's mostly true only early, like because later you have other stuff you can be doing, and
yeah,
also later most of the so even something like Apollo, like the early missions are verifying rendezvous and docking or whatever. If you haven't done that, and that's like those are things that you can do without really needing Apollo tech. Like a lot of the later programs are things that by the time they become available are thing like their first contracts are things you can do. Punzenster, we're talking about the programs rework. We're not talking about the like I don't know. You may be playing the programs rework, but this is pretty different from the current release version of RP1.
yeah, I guess we can always put more contracts pre-orbit, more
Well,
downrange
I
stuff.
guess what I'm my argument is that so the problem with the early game as we currently have it is that by definition you can't have so if you're doing X planes, by definition you can't have any sounding rocket programs active when you take early satellites.
Sure.
If you're not doing X planes, you maybe could have one of them still active, but it's still weird because you'd probably be completing like probably what you'd be doing is you'd have the downrange one still active because so like in some ways I know we don't want to do this because it's making a linear early game, but it almost feels like that downrange progression should just be part of early satellites and like maybe have only the last one required or something. But then we've lost two sounding rocket programs.
Yep. That doesn't sound
So,
great either.
yep.
Um, I mean, part of me just wants to say, okay, break your habit of constantly having to launch a rocket. Be okay with warping. Like maybe that's, and once people realize that's a valid strategy, they will stop just constantly feeling like they need to fill up their launch complexes. And I know you've done some of that, but you also have been probably launching more rockets than you've needed to launch.
Yes, that's certainly true that I've been launching more than I needed, but it's also um,
So to me, it feels like the best strategy to solve this is just to fill it up with more optional contracts that give you some sort of rep if to satisfy the need to have the LC building. Like, and we could do that. We could have contracts to like a contract you're doing. We could turn that into a real optional contract, like just build data on an engine or something could be turned into a contract that gives fairly low rep, but at least it gives you more of a feeling like you did something when you were doing the thing you were doing already.
yeah, I think it's less to me it I think there is something different between um, always wanting there to be something to do and accepting a new program and there being nothing to do and it just feeling like it's not clear where I should go next. Like I think there's a strong difference from the player perspective between um, basically my current situation. Um, I think that there's a useful distinction between um, I am warping specifically to get the funds for this thing, or I'm warping because like I'm 4 tech nodes out, and once I get those tech nodes, then I can build a rocket, which I'll need money for, and a bunch of other things. And the former feels like, yes, that's fine. You just warp until you have the money you need. The latter feels more like I've accepted a program and it was a mistake because I just can't do it.
Hmm.
So here's the so my equivalent argument is, let's say, like, because Apollo is just such a perfect canonical example, so I'll just keep using it. Let's say I accept Apollo, but let's say Apollo becomes available um, as soon as you achieve orbit, like before you've achieved crewed orbit. And while yes, it's strictly true, you could accept Apollo and then warp for a long time so that you had like you keep getting funding which you plow into researchers until you get the tech nodes you need and then you build a thing and then you can do it.
Mhm.
But it still feels like there was a step missing there. And that's to me that's what early satellites is feeling like.
Okay. Well, if we, I mean, it'll help that we're planning to extend the required amount of downrange anyway.
Yeah.
So you'll be closer, at least in the tech required, although, like may not be close enough, and we could continue extending the amount of downrange you need to exit the rocket development program to feel like there's a good matchup between how far you have to get where you're at. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just like again, it's that conundrum we have in the early game that we want people to not have to super grind through a bunch of relatively boring stuff uh, to get to the fun, more satellite programish stuff. But at the same time, we keep wanting to add more stuff to make those years meaningful. So until we get to the point where we just say, okay, you start in 1955.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's always gonna yeah, there is that tension there for sure. And like
yeah,
yes, I absolutely could just warp a while and then build that rocket. Um,
yeah. I don't know. There's plenty of other games where it feels like it's a-okay to just warp until you have the research you needed.
yeah.
It could be. Hmm, yeah, like overall, it just does feel better for the player in the end if they do warp till they have the rocket they need, and that's also not a terrible strategy. Like one of the reasons we all got addicted to constantly filling up the VAB, it was the best strategy. If you could do a contract, it was always better to use the VAB to get the money
Yep.
than not doing that. Whereas now, like not just in the sense that you probably launched more rockets than you needed, but you actually might have been better off money wise if you had been not launching as many rockets. There's that possibility
Yeah.
because the rockets are expensive. You have to keep the engineers going. Yeah, you built efficiency, but like the efficiency would have come later anyway.
Yeah. That's true. Um, I mean, Yeah, that or building up rep. Because yeah, I'm now back to the case where I definitely need a bunch more rep to max out my
Yeah.
subsidy, and
Well, the rep tuning is all over the place,
yeah,
and it is also going to be hard. Like as our chat is pointing out, that if you're under the rep minimum, you're going to feel like, well, I have to climb out of this hole
yeah,
to get any.
there's a big climb there for sure.
That one's going to be rough. And then if you're over the cap, then also that's a little bit harder. Although at least in that case, I have the fast program stuff to have another incentive to build high rep. Some of the fast programs, especially the later ones,
Yeah,
will push you to get over even the max subsidy you can ever reach.
yep, makes sense. For Kinji, I don't know what you mean by our contracts automatable.
Probably means the idea that we kicked around of like having a repeatable contract where you just say dedicate an LC to
Oh yeah,
giving some constant money. That's kind
yeah,
of
but
like
I feel like that's kind
other.
of dead now that we have programs. I mean,
Yeah,
given
exactly.
that programs have some repeatables, maybe not, but like that feels like a little weird.
Yeah, I would fully like to get rid of everything that was a straight repeatable. Just do this rocket over and over again with this exact payload.
Yep.
So yeah, I would even lean away from toward getting rid of those commercial contracts that we left outside of it. But
Yeah. Okay, let's fly another supersonic flight. And the J57 is thermally limited under 700, right? I have some memory of blowing it up by trying to go over 700.
the better J57
Yeah, not the starter.
limited to 720.
Okay, so I guess I can do one more contract beyond this.
But it's kind of the ragged edge. Like it's pretty easy to run. You'll use AA, so it's fine. But
Wait, what the heck happened to X-Plane suborbital?
hmm.
It's not showing up. Why is it not showing up? That's spooky. Now it's showing up. That was weird. Yeah, I guess I should ask. Have you done enough of a tuning pass on some of the early rep stuff that it's worth plunking those over, or should it really? We'll just do it in one pass along with the program splitting and everything else.
No, I haven't done enough of
Okay.
an early pass. I did pass on the stuff PAP needed for
Oh yeah.
yeah, but I need to look at more spyware to validate some assumptions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we also just need to discuss whether we should be zero based or whether we should start saying, okay, you get some rep even for contracts that are not required, which would push us away from being zero based.
Yeah, I continue to say just and this is borne out, I think, by a bunch of the feedback. Just from a player perspective, it feels so bad to get the first orbit in the history of the world and you gain no reputation from it.
Sure, no, I mean that makes sense. I think the downside is just that maybe I'll figure out some way to juxtapose those. But yeah, I think it's rough to try and bake in just a built-in rep curve, because if we still go for a percentage loss for an astronaut death, that percentage loss is going to be dramatically worse for the player.
Yeah.
With a baked-in expectation of what point your rep is at.
Yes. Yes, that's true. I guess part of it is if we go with not loss as a rep loss, there has to be a way of gaining that back or something like that in a way that's not just the usual grind of repeatables. Although if the repeatable, like, if most programs have a way of, I was going to say, if most programs have a way of gaining back rep, but the problem there is then you're back on the constant grind. And we're trying to get away from that.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, the ideal would just be if we could rename rep to something that was more indicative of the way we want to use it.
Yeah. I mean, we can... Yeah, we can name it whatever we want.
No, I mean,
but it's still...
I expected that. It's just hard to imagine what that word is.
Yeah, but I think, but like, that said, in some ways, it doesn't matter what we call it. It's still the fact that as a player, you're going to want some tangible reward for doing big contracts. And the problem is the big contracts are the ones that are required. So you're sort of hosed.
Well,
so like doesn't
program, so that's, I guess that doesn't feel meaningful for people.
No, it's like how has my
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. You don't have to re-describe the.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's more that like the sort of large part I'm making is not just like it doesn't matter what we name the thing. There has to be some tangible reward. Like we could name it subsidy funding even directly, but then we have to pick some other resource that you gain from when you do a big required contract. Yeah, like I don't think it's necessarily the case that you have to gain rep from completing a required contract, but you have to gain something. And it's felt like rep is the best proxy for that. Also, in some ways, it's the least dangerous thing to give the player.
Yeah. No, I get it. That's why I was stuck in there as the thing it is.
Yep.
Now.
Yep. Eventually we'll be fast enough. This one I'm particularly pleased with. Um, Non-record contracts show up before all record contracts in this app.
That's good.
Probably should do the same for mission control, but I feel like mission control, it's useful to see the... I don't know. I probably should do the same for mission control, just for consistency. But I'm very happy with this. So you no longer have stuff behind ascent guidance if you have ascent guidance where I do.
Mm-hmm.
So that I'm pretty happy with. And that was... yeah, that was some interesting stuff with Harmony. This experiment is running. Yeah, it's running. It's fine. Okay, let's come about.
Yeah, my best guess is that we will have to go back to zero-based prep. Zero-based in the sense of you get the minimum subsidy for having zero rep, and do rep decay, and then we can put rep into the mainline contracts.
Yeah, we're still going to be in the weird situation where the optionals have to grant more than the regulars. Is that correct? Because that also feels bad, although it's...
Not necessarily, but if we take the yeah, I mean the problem is just the optionals may become too irrelevant.
Yeah.
May be in a, like, if we could figure out making sure that the optionals actually felt like they were good for something else. Like a lot of the optionals for at least the outer planet exploration, or like planetary exploration, feel like they're useful in and of themselves to get science. So.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, so far, like...
earlier ones are all just make work.
I mean, the sounding rocket ones you get science from. So...
yeah, I mean, there's enough.
And the X-Plane ones, and yeah. Yeah, there's... I would say there's honestly very little make work from the optionals. Like, I guess the suborbital testing stuff from crude orbit is an example of actual make work, but... Okay, this is not as horrible a descent as before. That's nice. Okay. Let's fly an actually reasonable descent this time.
That is a surprisingly reasonable approach angle.
Yep. Only problem is we're speeding up. Okay, now we're finally slowing down. Pop some brakes. That's fine.
Yeah.
All right, now we're bleeding. Okay.
You're actually not nose down at the runway before the last 2 seconds.
Yes. There. That went fine. Squirrel, there's only caps for things in the hangar. Rockets don't have maximums. The maximum is the... Oh, sorry, there's one exception. So the either your rocket takes, in a non-human rated launch complex, the engineer limit for any rocket is the engineer limit of the launch complex. In a human rated launch complex, the engineer limit for a non-human rated rocket is what it would be in a non-human rated launch complex, which is to say 2/3 of the engineer limit in the human rated launch complex. There's no 6.7 science. Going well. Okay, that's recovering. That's all nice. Get some more cash. Okay, now we can finally start building. And we got some more rep. That's nice. Still under max. Okay, I'm willing to tool this tank for a million space bucks. Oh, right, I'm set to hangar. Purchase. Okay. Build a couple of these. Okay, so let's pull everybody out of the hangar except one person. And then, what does this do to my funding? Okay, so R&D will complete real soon now. 21 days. Squirrel, I'm leaving one person because I'm going to fly this again at some point. Well, I guess I could take the person out as well and eventually shove them back in. But yeah, I guess that's what I'll do. And let's add a bunch of folks. Oh, and I have... Cool. I have new engineers. That's nice. Okay, now that's building rather faster. Okay, let's... Okay, breaking almost even. And that is going to finish in 76 days. So we'll get solids. Then we'll get R&D, bunch of stuff. Then we'll get our electronics techs. And we can actually go to orbit. So cool. I think that is where I'm going to stop. Maximal, thank you for coming by. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I'll catch you next time.
Thanks for
Night.
having me.
You bet.
Bye.
Night.